Welcome back to the channel Rare Coins All World, where we uncover hidden treasures in the coins you might have lying around the house or in your pocket right now. Today, we're diving into a penny you've probably seen 100 times. It's the classic 1980 Lincoln penny, something you might think of as nothing more than a common coin. No big deal, right? Well, what if I told you that the 1980 Lincoln penny has the potential to be worth more than a small car? A lot more, in fact. Sounds crazy? Stick around, because we're going to dive into what makes this specific penny special, how some of these coins have become extremely valuable, and how you can spot one that's worth thousands of dollars. Let's take a look at the history of the 1980 Lincoln penny first. In 1980, the United States Mint struck billions of pennies for circulation. Just like the pennies before it, the 1980 Lincoln penny features the familiar image of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, front, and on the reverse, the iconic wheat ears that were replaced by the Lincoln Memorial design in 1959. For most people, pennies are just pennies. We've all used them, we've all tossed them into jars or even thrown them away because they seem insignificant. But hidden among these billions of common coins are rarities that could be worth a small fortune. So what's so special about the 1980 Lincoln penny? Well, as with any coin, what makes one worth more than face value is often an error or a rare variation. And believe it or not, there are a number of 1980 pennies out there that are much rarer than others. Let's talk about some of the key things that could make your 1980 penny worth a lot more than just 1 cent. First, there's the possibility of a double die error. This happens when the coin is struck twice, causing the design to appear doubled. In the case of the 1980 penny, you'll want to look closely at the letters and numbers, especially on Liberty or the date itself. If you see any type of doubling, that could mean you've got a rare coin on your hands. Then there's the off-center strike. This is one of those errors that makes a coin appear a bit off when you look at it. The design may be shifted to one side, leaving part of the penny blank. The more off-center the strike is, the more valuable the coin could be. Sometimes, these dimes have missing parts of the design or the edge is uneven, making them stand out as unique pieces. If you find one of these in your change, don't toss it, take a second to examine it. Another error to look out for is the misaligned die strike. This happens when the dies that press the design onto the penny are not properly aligned, causing part of the coin to look distorted or incomplete. These mistakes can make the coin visually interesting, and collectors love them for their rarity. And there's also the copper-nickel mix issue. You see, pennies minted after 1982 were made of zinc with a copper coating. But some coins minted in 1980, particularly those struck at the Denver Mint, were mistakenly struck on the wrong planchet, meaning they were made with a different metal composition, such as a copper-nickel mix. These are extremely rare, and their value skyrockets because they are so unique. So, why does any of this matter? Because one of these error coins could end up being the one that's worth thousands of dollars. Here's an incredible example. A particular 1980 Lincoln penny, found by an unsuspecting collector, was identified as having a misaligned die error and an off-center strike. To the naked eye, it just looked like a worn penny, but after closer inspection and authentication, it turned out to be a major find. This penny was in exceptional condition for an error coin, and after it was graded, its value reached an astronomical price. Now, you might be wondering, how much are we talking here? Well, the final auction price for that 1980 Lincoln penny came in at a jaw-dropping $36,000. Yes, you heard that correctly, $36,000 for a coin that, by all appearances, seems completely ordinary. So, how can you tell if your 1980 penny is worth more than just the 1 cent it was minted for? Here's what you need to do. First, examine your coin closely. Use a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe if necessary. Look for any signs of doubling, especially around the date and the words, Liberty, or, In God We Trust. Pay attention to the edge of the coin. If it's off-center or the lettering looks distorted, you may be in luck. Second, check the weight of the coin. A typical 1980 penny weighs about 2.5 grams. If it feels lighter or heavier than that, it might have been struck on a different planchet, making it more valuable. And finally, get it graded. If you think you've found something special, send it to a reputable grading company like PCGS or NGC. They can authenticate the coin and give you an official grade, which can significantly increase its market value. Who knows? Your 1980 Lincoln penny might just be the next big find in the coin collecting world. To wrap it up, never underestimate the value of a penny. What seems like pocket change could be hiding something incredible. If you've got any 1980 pennies laying around, take a moment to inspect them before spending them. You never know what you might find. Today, we're going to talk about a coin you might think is pretty ordinary, the 1975 Lincoln penny. But trust me, if you've got one of these in your collection, you could be holding on to something extraordinary. Now, I know what you're thinking. A penny? Worth more than just 1 cent? Well, I'm here to tell you that this 1975 penny could be worth a whole lot more than you ever imagined. So stay with me until the end because you're going to want to hear about the shocking value of this coin. We'll reveal that huge price tag a little later. Let's set the stage for a moment. The year is 1975. The world is going through some pretty major changes. The United States is dealing with economic inflation, the Vietnam War has just ended, and the disco era is taking over the music scene. Meanwhile, the US Mint is doing what it does best, producing coins for circulation. The Lincoln penny in 1975 wasn't particularly special to the average person back then, and for most, it still isn't. But what if I told you that hidden within those billions of pennies minted that year, there's a rare version that collectors are willing to pay top dollar for? You see, the 1975 Lincoln penny is not just any old copper coin. There were a few production errors in 1975 that resulted in pennies that are incredibly rare today. These errors are what make the 1975 penny stand out among other Lincoln pennies. Let's talk about the different types of rare 1975 pennies you should be on the lookout for. The first and most common rare 1975 penny error is the double die error. What does this mean? Well, it's when the coin's die, the metal stamp used to imprint the design, was misaligned, causing the design to be doubled. This gives the coin a blurry, duplicated appearance in certain areas, especially on the date and lettering. For a 1975 Lincoln penny, you'll want to check the Liberty text and the date itself. If you see any noticeable doubling or shadowing, this could be your ticket to a much higher value than just a regular penny. Another important error to look out for is the off-center strike. This happens when the coin is not perfectly centered during the minting process. This causes part of the coin to be cut off or misshaped, leaving a distorted image or part of the design missing. These off-center strikes are a huge deal in the coin collecting community because they are so rare and unique. The more off-center the coin is, the more valuable it could be, and then there's the misaligned die strike. This is a less common error but still something to keep an eye on. When the minting dies are not properly aligned during the strike, the image on the coin can appear slightly shifted or distorted. It's a subtle mistake, but collectors go wild for these coins because of their rarity and the unique nature of the error. Now, you might be thinking, okay, those sound like cool errors, but why is this particular 1975 penny worth thousands of dollars? Well, let me tell you about a mind-blowing story that could have you running to check your collection. A 1975 Lincoln penny with a double die error was discovered by a sharp-eyed collector, who noticed the doubling on the word Liberty and the date. After getting the penny authenticated and graded, it was revealed to be one of the most pristine examples of this error ever found. It was in mint condition, and its rarity attracted serious attention from collectors and investors alike. This penny ended up being sold at auction for a staggering price, proving just how valuable these rare pennies can be. The final sale price for that single 1975 Lincoln penny? $38,000. Yes, you heard me right, $38,000 for a single penny. That's the type of crazy value that can come from something as simple as a misprint or an error in the minting process. So how do you tell if your 1975 penny is one of these rare finds? It all comes down to examining the details. Get out your magnifying glass and take a closer look at the date, the text, and the overall design. Look for any signs of doubling, any off-center strikes, or any misalignment of the image. If anything looks off or unusual, there's a good chance you've got something valuable on your hands, and don't forget to check the condition of your coin. Coins that are in better shape, with less wear and tear, are worth significantly more than worn-out versions. Now, the next question is, should you just toss any 1975 penny you find into your change jar or pass it along at the store? Absolutely not. Even if it's not a rare error, it's worth keeping and checking every 1975 penny you come across. You never know when you might spot one of these mistakes hiding right in front of you. If you've got a 1975 penny and think it could be something special, the best thing you can do is get it professionally graded. A grading service like PCGS or NGC can authenticate your coin, evaluate its condition, and assign it a grade that can significantly increase its market value. So, let's recap. You may have thought that your 1975 Lincoln penny was just another piece of change, but it could actually be hiding a rare error that could be worth thousands of dollars. Whether it's a double die, off-center strike, or misaligned die error, these rare pennies have the potential to be worth more than a small fortune. The next time you're checking your change, or going through a box of old pennies, take a closer look at your 1975 Lincoln pennies, because you could be sitting on a coin worth $38,000. Today, we're about to uncover something extraordinary, a coin that's sitting quietly in circulation, waiting for the right collector to find it. Today's focus? The 1970 Lincoln penny. Now, before you roll your eyes and think, a penny? That's worth just 1 cent. Hold that thought. This isn't just any regular penny. In fact, the 1970 Lincoln penny could be hiding a treasure worth far more than you might imagine. I know, it seems impossible to think that something as small and humble as a penny could be worth thousands of dollars, but stay with me because you're in for a surprise. If you've ever found a 1970 penny in your pocket change, your piggy bank, or maybe even the back of your couch cushions, you'll want to keep watching. Because this coin might just be worth far more than face value, a lot more. So, let's start by diving into the history of the 1970 Lincoln penny. This coin is part of the series minted during the presidency of Richard Nixon, and just like all Lincoln pennies, it features the iconic image of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, front, and the familiar Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, back. The 1970 penny was produced in both Philadelphia and Denver, and you can identify where it was minted by the tiny mint mark above the date, no mint mark for Philadelphia and a small D for Denver. Now, for most people, a 1970 penny is just another coin. It's not rare. It's not flashy. But there are some key differences that can make certain 1970 pennies extremely valuable. What are these differences, you ask? Well, it all comes down to errors. And when it comes to coin collecting, errors can make a world of difference in terms of value. The first and most important type of error to look for in the 1970 Lincoln penny is the double die error. So, what exactly does that mean? Essentially, a double die error occurs when a coin is struck more than once, resulting in a doubling of the design. The image appears blurry or shifted. In the case of the 1970 penny, you'll want to pay attention to the date and the words, Liberty and, In God We Trust. If you look closely and see any sort of doubling on the letters or numbers, that's a red flag that you found something special. Some 1970 pennies have this double die error, and they're highly sought after by collectors. The more dramatic the doubling, the more valuable the coin can become. Next, there's the off-center strike. This is a minting error that happens when the coin is not properly aligned during the striking process. As a result, part of the coin's design is cut off, or it might have a distorted appearance. The more extreme the misalignment, the more the coin becomes a collectible, but there's more. In fact, there's another incredibly rare error found in some of the 1970 pennies. This one is known as a large date versus small date variation. What does that mean? Well, in 1970, the U.S. Mint created two different types of dies for the Lincoln penny, one with a large date and one with a small date. The large date version is more common, but the small date variety is much rarer and worth much more. So, if you have a 1970 penny with a small date, you could be holding onto something that could fetch a pretty penny, literally. And now, here's where it gets exciting. You see, there's one particular 1970 Lincoln penny that went up for auction a while ago, and it shocked the world with its sale price. This penny wasn't just any ordinary coin, it had both a double die error and a small date variation, which made it an absolute gem for collectors. After being carefully authenticated and graded, it sold for an unbelievable price. Are you ready for this? The 1970 Lincoln penny sold for an incredible $40,000. Yes, you read that correctly, $40,000 for a single penny. Now, you might be thinking, how on earth could a penny be worth that much? The answer lies in the rarity of the coin, the errors it contains, and the fact that there are only a few known examples like it in the world. As with any collectible, rarity and condition are key factors that determine its value. And when you've got a 1970 penny with a double die and small date error, you're looking at a coin that could be worth thousands of dollars. So, how can you tell if your 1970 penny is one of these valuable specimens? First, examine the date carefully. Look for the small date version. If the numbers look slightly different than the large date version, you might have something valuable on your hands. Then, take a magnifying glass and closely inspect the text on the coin. Look for any signs of doubling, especially on the date or the words, Liberty and, In God We Trust. If you spot doubling, that's a major indicator that your penny might be a double die error, and that's exactly what collectors are after. If you do find a 1970 penny with these errors, you'll want to get it professionally graded. A reputable grading company like PCGS or NGC will authenticate your coin and determine its condition. The higher the grade, the more it's worth, and trust me, you'll want to have it professionally graded if you think it's worth a lot of money. In conclusion, the 1970 Lincoln penny is far more than just pocket change. With the right minting error or rare variation, this small coin can be worth a small fortune. So, the next time you're sorting through your pennies or checking your spare change, make sure to pay special attention to those 1970 pennies. You might just find a hidden treasure worth $40,000. Today, we're diving into a coin that you might have in your collection or even just sitting in your pocket change, the 1979 Lincoln penny. It may seem like an everyday coin, but trust me, this penny has a secret that could make it worth much more than its face value. So, why is the 1979 Lincoln penny so special? Why would a penny from the late 70s have collectors buzzing and drive up its value to thousands of dollars? Let's break it down and uncover the mystery behind this remarkable coin, and by the end, you'll be amazed at how a simple penny could be worth a small fortune. Now, let's start with the basics. The 1979 Lincoln penny was minted during a time of economic growth in the United States. The U.S. economy had recently emerged from the turbulent 1970s, and inflation was on the rise. Despite this, the U.S. Mint continued its usual work, producing millions of pennies, but within those millions, there were a few unique coins that would go on to become highly sought after by collectors. And if you're holding on to a 1979 penny, you might have one of those rare finds. Like all Lincoln pennies, the 1979 Lincoln penny features the famous portrait of President Abraham Lincoln on the front, designed by Victor David Brenner. On the back, you'll find the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo. These features have been a staple of the Lincoln penny series for decades. However, it's not the basic design that makes the 1979 penny valuable. No, it's the errors that occurred during the minting process that turned this penny into a collector's dream. Let's talk about one of the most significant errors you should be looking for, the double die error. What is a double die error, you ask? Well, it's when the design of the coin is struck twice, causing the image to appear slightly doubled or blurred. This doubling can happen on various parts of the coin, but for the 1979 penny, collectors specifically look at the date and the word Liberty. So how can you spot it? Grab a magnifying glass, and look closely at the date and the letters. If you see a faint shadow or a slight doubling of the numbers or the text, you might be holding onto a double die error penny. These coins are highly collectible because of their rarity. Only a small number of 1979 pennies were affected by this minting mistake, making them worth much more than a regular penny. And let me tell you, some of these coins have sold for incredible prices at auctions, but wait, there's more. Another error that makes the 1979 penny valuable is the off-center strike. This happens when the coin is not perfectly aligned during the minting process, resulting in a misaligned image or part of the design being cut off. The more extreme the off-center strike, the more valuable the coin becomes. A perfectly off-center 1979 penny can be worth far more than just face value, so if you spot a coin that looks a bit unusual or like part of it has been cut off, it could be worth a significant amount of money. Additionally, there's the misaligned die error, which happens when the dies used to strike the coin are not aligned properly, resulting in a coin with a shifted design. While this error is less common than the double die or off-center strike, it's still highly sought after by collectors looking for unique pieces to add to their collection. The more noticeable the misalignment, the more valuable the coin becomes. Now, let's talk about one of the most incredible success stories of the 1979 Lincoln penny. Imagine finding one of these rare error coins, getting it graded by a professional coin grading service, and discovering that it's worth a small fortune. Well, that actually happened. One particular 1979 penny with a double die error sold at auction for an astonishing $33,000. Yes, you read that right, a penny worth $33,000, so why was this penny worth so much? The combination of the double die error, its pristine condition, and the rarity of the coin made it a must-have for collectors. Coins like this don't come around every day, and that's what makes them so valuable. The 1979 penny with this particular error is a prime example of how small mistakes during the minting process can lead to coins that become highly desirable. So, what does this mean for you? Well, if you're lucky enough to have a 1979 Lincoln penny, you'll want to take a closer look. Even if your penny doesn't have a noticeable error, it's worth checking for any imperfections or abnormalities. It only takes one rare find to turn your pocket change into a serious payday. Here's how to start your search. Grab a magnifying glass and inspect the date, the text on the coin, and the overall design. Look for any signs of doubling on the date or the word Liberty. Check for any off-center strikes or misaligned die errors that could make your coin stand out from the rest. And remember, the better the condition of the coin, the more it could be worth. But what if you think you found a rare one? The next step is to get your coin professionally graded by a trusted grading service like PCGS or NGC. These companies will authenticate your coin, evaluate its condition, and provide you with a grade that can increase its market value. To wrap up, the 1979 Lincoln penny might look like an ordinary coin to most people, but if you know what to look for, it could be hiding a valuable error. From double die errors to off-center strikes, these pennies have the potential to fetch prices far beyond their face value. And just like that, you could be holding onto a coin worth $33,000. So, if you've got a 1979 Lincoln penny in your collection or happen to find one in your spare change, take a moment to check it carefully. You just might have a rare treasure worth $33,000 waiting for you. Today, we're going to talk about a coin you might have sitting in your pocket or in your change jar, the 1981 Lincoln penny. While it may seem like a regular penny to most people, there's more to this coin than meets the eye. Trust me, you'll want to keep watching because this penny could be hiding something worth a lot more than its face value. You're probably thinking, a 1981 penny? It's just a penny. Well, you're not entirely wrong, but here's where it gets interesting. Certain 1981 Lincoln pennies could be worth thousands of dollars. That's right, thousands. If you've ever come across a 1979 penny, 1980 penny, or 1981 penny, you might want to take a closer look because there are some rarities that can make a huge difference in its value. But before we get into what makes the 1981 penny so special, let's take a quick trip back in time and explore a bit of history. The 1981 Lincoln penny was minted at the time when the U.S. was coming out of a period of economic struggles, inflation, and the energy crisis of the late 70s. This coin features the same familiar design we've seen for years, President Abraham Lincoln on the front, and the iconic Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. It's a coin that, in many ways, reflects the changes happening in the U.S. at the time. But for collectors, it's what's hidden in plain sight that counts. And I'm not talking about just the design, I'm talking about those rare minting errors that can make this penny worth far more than just 1 cent. One of the most important things to keep an eye out for is the double die error. This happens when the die used to strike the coin is misaligned, resulting in a blurry or doubled image on the coin. In the case of the 1981 penny, this error can be spotted on the date and the words, Liberty and, In God We Trust. If you look carefully and notice any doubling of the numbers or text, then you could have found yourself a valuable coin. These double die errors are extremely rare and, as a result, highly sought after by collectors. The more pronounced the doubling, the more valuable the coin becomes. Some 1981 pennies with double die errors have been sold for thousands of dollars. The key here is to pay attention to the details. If you notice any unusual doubling, you're holding onto a coin that might fetch you more than you think, but it doesn't stop there. Another thing to watch out for is the off-center strike. This happens when the coin is struck incorrectly during the minting process, and part of the design is cut off or shifted. If you notice that the image on your 1981 penny isn't centered properly, or if part of it looks like it's been cut off, this could be another valuable minting error. Off-center strikes are much less common than the double die error, but they can still be worth a pretty penny, especially if the misalignment is extreme enough. Some collectors absolutely love these coins because they are so unique. The more extreme the misalignment, the more sought after the coin becomes. There's also the possibility of a misaligned die error. This occurs when the minting dies don't line up properly when striking the coin, resulting in a shifted or incomplete design. If your 1981 penny has a noticeable shift in its design, it could be another rare find. While not as common as the double die error or the off-center strike, the misaligned die error is still something that coin collectors value. Now, you might be wondering, how much can these errors actually be worth? Well, let me tell you, the value of these coins can skyrocket depending on the error, the condition of the coin, and how rare it is. To give you an example, one particularly rare 1981 Lincoln penny with a double die error was recently sold at auction for an incredible $32,000. That's right, $32,000 for a single penny. You're probably thinking, how can a simple penny be worth so much? The answer lies in the rarity and the condition of the coin. While most 1981 pennies are worth, well, 1 cent, the rare errors are what make them worth so much more. With only a few of these rare error coins in existence, collectors are willing to pay top dollar to get their hands on them. So, if you have a 1981 Lincoln penny, don't just dismiss it as pocket change. Take a closer look at the details, especially the date and the inscriptions. Look for any signs of doubling, misalignment, or off-center strikes. If you spot any of these, it might be worth getting the coin professionally graded by a trusted grading service, like PCGS or NGC. A certified, graded coin will have a higher value, and the authentication process ensures you get top dollar for your rare find. The great thing about collecting coins is that you never know what treasures are out there, just waiting to be discovered. And who knows, that 1981 penny you found in your spare change might just be the next big find. So, keep an eye out for those rare minting errors, and don't forget, the value of a coin is often in its rarity and condition, not just its AGE. To wrap things up, the 1981 Lincoln penny might seem like an ordinary coin, but if it has a double die error, an off-center strike, or a misaligned die error, it could be worth a small fortune. So, the next time you come across a 1981 penny, don't overlook it. It could be worth $32,000. Thanks for tuning in, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Do you have any rare pennies in your collection? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear about your discoveries. Keep hunting for those treasures, and remember, a penny saved could be a penny earned, but a rare penny could be a fortune waiting to be found.